Hello, Feminine Roadmappers. Welcome back to Feminine Roadmap Podcast, the podcast that helps you navigate the challenges and the changes of midlife and empowers you to live a more vibrant second half. If you find us today on YouTube, please click subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss any more of these amazing conversations. If you're on a podcast platform, please remember to subscribe and rate this podcast so we can get more eyes and ears on what we're doing here. Today, friends, we're going to be talking about marriage. There's a lot of conversation about this topic of gray divorce. Marriage is failing after 25, 30 years as people hit midlife and their children leave home. But my guest today is on a mission to reduce these divorce rates, especially among women of faith. She wants to give love a chance. She wants to see broken homes become whole homes. She wants to eliminate that struggle that we're having and empower marriages to find love and hope again so that they can transform their marriages and go forward together as a team. My guest today is Theresa DeWit. She's a personal marriage coach, a speaker, and an author. Her book, Less Conflict, More Joy. Simple strategies for women of faith to transform your marriage. Theresa, thank you so much for being with me today.
I'm so excited to be here with you. I cannot wait to see where this conversation goes.
Well, I'm excited to hear. What was it that led you to have a passion for marriages?
I think it started with the crumbling of my first marriage. I did so much research. I was trying to figure out how can I fix my marriage? What can I do? What can I do to make a difference? Because I think we all know that couples coaching, couples marriage counseling, it oftentimes just leads to arguments and disagreements and more conflict than you actually went into the meeting with. So I wanted to figure out how can I help women work on their marriage by themselves. Do the things that they can do themselves to make a difference, not only for in their marriage and their relationship with their husband, but their ability to parent their children, to be, effective in the workplace, effective with their friends, and not be that person, Debbie Downer. It's like, oh, my marriage, oh, this is so awful. You have friends like that, I'm sure, right?
Yes.
People that are always struggling. And I want to help these women make a difference in their marriage and feel better every day and be more in love with their husband tomorrow than they were today. And find the easy tools, because I have 14 different principles in my book, Less Conflict, More Joy, 14 easy principles that a person can learn today, apply tonight, and begin making a big difference in their marriage tomorrow.
Now, what are you finding in your work are some of the biggest sticking points for marriages?
I would say the number one thing is understanding what you need and what your husband needs, and then communicating those things effectively. There's an amazing book by the author Gary Chapman, The 5 Love Languages. If you haven't heard about it, please go grab it. I feature that in this book here too. I got permission from the publisher to actually include his information in my book. So there's 5 different love languages, and when you understand what your primary, maybe secondary love languages are, and your husband's primary and secondary love languages, then you can love each other in the other person's love language, and then you can ask for him to love you in your love language. It fills your love bucket. You feel better about each other, and it's a matter of communicating those needs and getting those communicated in a way where the other person can understand and hear you.
It's like speaking another language, isn't it?
It truly is. And loving in another person's love language. Let me give you an example. My husband, his 2 primaries, so the 5 love languages are acts of service, words of affirmation, gift giving, quality time, and physical touch. So my husband is the quality time and the physical touch guy. Well, most guys are physical touch guys. And it's not just sex. It's just like, hugs and touching each other's shoulders. One big tip I can give the listeners today is, if you want to make a difference in your marriage today, stop tonight, hug your husband for 10 to 15 seconds, and don't let go. Just hug him and keep hugging him and keep hugging him, because that speaks to both of your needs for connection. And if you do that every day, that's one thing I can give you that's going to make a difference tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Just keep hugging that guy. Hug him so tight that you hear his heartbeat. So that's part of the physical touch. And for him, it's quality time. Me, I'm a doer. I want to get this done and acts of service, let's do this thing. And that's me, right? So I don't usually stop and talk. But my husband needs that. And so I understand that that's what he needs. And if he's happy, then I'm happier. When he's not stressed out, I can be happier. So when I love him in his love language, he gives me more of what I need. So when I sit and talk with him, say after work, or like yesterday, for instance, I just got my ring done, refinished. I don't know if you can see this.
Pretty.
It's so pretty now. I had to cut it off at Easter. Last year I had to cut it off because my finger had gotten too big. What, middle age, right? Our knuckles get bigger, we gain a little weight, menopause, hello. And my ring was so tight on my finger, it was starting to make my finger turn blue. Oh. So Easter Sunday, I was filing it down, trying to fix it. My husband came in and he brought these big, I said, honey, do you have anything to help me take this thing off? Because I don't want to go to the hospital. Just take my ring off. He's a plumber. So he came in with these big, these huge, they're big. I don't even know, some kind of clipper, snipper, wrench. I don't know. But he just went in there and he's like, bing. And then he took 2 needle nose pliers. He stretched my ring apart. He got it off my finger. It took 4 or 5 months for my finger to get better, for my knuckle and the swelling to go down. Well, anyway, so I just got this yesterday. Part of the story is I took him downstairs, because I hadn't worn it for months and months. And I was wearing some cheap $18 ring, sterling silver and white sapphire or whatever it is. But it was some cheap ring and I was wearing it for a while, but I took him down and I got his ring fixed up too. And I took him down to this place, a spot that we picked out to say, this is when we get old, we're going to go to the lake and we're going to sit on this bench and we're going to talk. We might not be able to walk and jog like we used to be, but we're still going to use this as a place that we connect. So I took him down there and I opened the little ring box and I said, honey, will you stay with me forever? And I gave him the ring. And then we got a chance to talk. And so that's back to the quality time, because that really speaks to his heart when I make an effort to listen. That's one of his love languages. So I try to do that. Now, sex is another one. So I try to be available in that way too. Yeah. And that also then gives me the opportunity to say, when I've met his love languages, I can say to him, baby, it really makes me feel loved when you help me take out the trash or help me get these things accomplished at the house, the acts of service, the things that I do. So I'm able then to, when I love him in his love language, and it opens the door for me to be able to ask him to love me in mine.
Mm-hmm. And so what I hear you saying is it's a two-way awareness.
It certainly is.
The fix doesn't just come from me getting what I want. It's understanding what they need too. And like you said, when we start speaking the love language, right? Whether we're saying today, I'm speaking your love language, but we begin to do those little things, it naturally warms the relationship back up, right?
It does. It absolutely does. Yes. So, and the first step of that is understanding where you both fit in the love language chart. Now you can go to it's a 5 love languages, is the number 5 lovelanguages.com, and they have a love quiz there, and that'll help you understand. They also have an apology quiz, an apology language quiz, the 5 apology languages. So Gary Chapman is an absolutely wonderful resource. I'm not saying don't come to me, please come to me too. I would love to work with you, because in my coaching with other women, I work directly with women and I help them understand, really drill down, what is his love languages, what are your love languages, and how can you two communicate in a way that you both feel loved. And that helps avoid the gray divorce that you were talking about. The more we feel loved and cherished and connected with our partner, the less likely we are going to head down toward the road toward divorce.
I think that word connection is probably one of the bigger sticking points. I think people lose touch with each other, don't they? They kind of grow apart, or they focus so much on the kids or whatever. And this is we hear these things all the time, but really what it comes down to is I hear people saying, well, we just fell out of love, or, oh, we just grew apart. And to me, that equals a loss of connection.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yeah,
about how we make
yeah,
effort with our friends, right? When we reconnect with our friends, what if we did the same kinds of things in our marriage?
truly. It, when we have spend all those years raising our children, and not everybody has children, but when you, and it might be that you're spending all those years working hard at your jobs or building your career. It could be, there's a lot of different things that can take you away from focusing on your marriage, but it's so important to invest in your relationship. Now, investment in a relationship could be a number of things. It can be, I encourage myself in the book, at the end of each chapter in my book, and also my online course, at the end of each chapter or each section, I have a list of things that action steps to do. So you're going to, one of them is planning date nights for the next 6 weeks. Thinking it, writing it down. What are 6 different things that you can do in the next 6 weeks that you can plan out now? Maybe you need to make a reservation at a restaurant. Maybe you need to go to Pino's Palette and, paint something silly. Maybe it's a hike you'd like to go take. Whatever that is, maybe it's a couple's date night you want to go with another couple and do something. Those are all investments in your relationship. And when we plan ahead, we're more likely to get those things done. When they get on our calendar, we're more likely to get them done. Maybe you need to tell your husband, hey, when are you going to be in town? Let's make sure that we connect each week, do some one-on-one, something fun. It can't always be so heavy. A relationship tends to kind of drill down to just like, who's taking out the garbage tonight and who's doing the grocery shopping and who's going to do the cleaning. But we need to remember to bring the fun and the excitement into our relationship on a regular basis. I also give lots of tips in my book and in the online course as well when I'm doing coaching, is coming up with ideas that can make your relationship fun. Like sometimes I'll just crank up the music and we'll have a dance party in the kitchen. And my husband, thankfully, he's game for that kind of stuff. Sometimes he'll like, oh, can we do, the neighbor's gonna see, But or sometimes I'll just throw. My husband, I'm usually doing things, before he's usually in the bedroom, maybe watching some TV before I get in there. So sometimes I'll just open the door and I'll hurl myself onto the bed and I'm like, this anything to be silly, playful, fun, keeping that energy alive, remembering things that made you belly laugh. When you have an inside joke, you can bring it up again and again. One time my husband said, he danced around the kitchen like he was wearing suspenders. Can't really see here. I'll put my fingers here. Like he's wearing suspenders. I am so smart. SMRTE. Of course, he spelled it wrong. Now we'll do that. Like, so we'll throw that SMRTE comment around. That's just our inside joke, but it always makes it lightens the mood. It makes a little smile on your face. Those inside jokes and repeating those things are things that can keep that connection alive.
Yeah.
And stave you off from that gray divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another thing that we could talk about. Have you heard of quiet quitting? Right?
Yes, I have.
So quiet quitting, it's often referred to in terms of work, that someone just kind of detaches and detaches and detaches, stops doing the work, shows up late, and one day just doesn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens in relationships too.
Yeah.
So let's say, you stop kissing, you stop hugging, you stop doing the things, you stop, what's the word I want to use? Fighting for yourself, like making sure that you're being heard. And those that kind of behavior, as you step back and step back and step back and step back, finally you just went, I've fallen out of love, like you were saying earlier, or we've grown apart. Well, that's because you didn't make an effort, and you have to keep on making that effort, because divorce is costly. The grass is not greener on the other side. For those of you women out who are listening today, if you're considering divorce, you need to consider all of divorce, not just like, oh,
Mm.
I'm going to leave this relationship. My life is going to be better. No, it is going to be drama for a year. You're going to be, uh, it's just going to be drama. And then you're going to have to figure out who gets what. You have to rebuild your household. Now you have to have both have incomes to create a household. You have to not have a space just for yourself, but you have to have enough space so your kids can come visit. Who gets the dog or cat? You lose friendships. It's very expensive, especially the more you earn right now, the more expensive your divorce is going to be. So it's critical that you invest time, energy, maybe some money into some coaching or some counseling, something to keep your relationship better. Because it's like the grass isn't greener on the other side. You have to fertilize the grass that you're on. You need to put the time and the energy. You need to add that fertilizer. Maybe do a staycation. Spend a little money and go to a nice hotel. Get a spa day together. Do a couples massage. The things that are going to keep you connected.
Hmm. Hmm. As you're talking, I'm thinking about how this can be an opportunity to stop and look at your husband and admire what you admire about him. Like, because it's easy to focus on the negative, but like
Truly.
maybe if you love the shape of his nose or the line of his jaw or whatever, you could admire. Yeah. Take him to the gun show and just enjoying visually what you admire about your husband, and maybe reminding yourself and thanking him for the ways that he's a blessing. Just finding ways to send a little text to say, I really appreciate how hard you work or whatever. Because I think we forget to really look at the person and remember what we liked about them and what we loved about them, right?
Right. Right. And that being grateful for the things that he does really will light a fire underneath him. When you say, not everyone is going to be driven this way, but for certainly with my husband, the more I am grateful for the things that he does in our relationship, in our family, for our household, the more I find that he is willing to do more. You want to, even with our kids, right? We want to point out the positives.
Yeah.
Bring them up, praise. Even though he's an old guy, maybe he's 60 years old or 50 years old, he still loves to be, gratitude. It's a form of respect.
Mm.
Men love to be respected. And it's a big part of who they are. I found that there's kind of three different needs that a man has. Now, this is generalizing. It's not all men, but there's a need for respect. There's a need for food and a need for sex and connection physically. And when one of those things are not being met, he might get grumbly. If he's in a kind of a particularly bad mood and you're not really sure what it is, like it's not necessarily work or somebody to talk to, or if he's just kind of generally in a funk, kind of take a look at sex, food, and respect. Ways that you can, I go through like 50 different ways in this book that you can show respect your husband. One of them is being verbalizing gratitude for the things that he's doing, and like connecting with him, like in his work, listening to his stories about what's going on at work, asking about, well, how did it go with John today? I heard, that you had that conflict yesterday. Was there any resolution today? Just jumping in, knowing the names of his coworkers, the people that he works with, remembering those things. Those are all ways that you show him respect, that you're actually listening. It's so hard because we have a society where this thing is in front of us all the time, 24/7. I am so guilty of that. My phone, I run 4 different businesses and 3 of them are from my phone. So it is always in my hand. And when we are connecting, when we're talking, I need to put that phone down and ignore that for a little while. Maybe even put it on silent. Put it on airplane mode if you're having it really connecting with him, so you're not getting notifications on your watch, those kind of things. So you can show him the respect and really tune into the things that he's telling you. So you're not just saying, Oh yeah, babe. Yeah. Got you. Yeah. What was that again? What was his name? You know, I can be very guilty of that myself.
It's that being present in the moment, making that
Hmm.
habit. It doesn't have to be 24/7, I'm sure, but
Right.
taking the time, because isn't it true we all just really need to be seen and heard, and men are not always the best at letting us know that they need that.
No, they aren't. Definitely are not good at that, always asking for what they want or need.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you, when you ask from him something that you want or need, let me give you this as another tip. Do not beat around the bush. Like, okay, I've get my hair done, get my nails done. I have been in the salon after Valentine's Day many times. And what is the constant conversation in the nail salon or the hair salon after that? It's like how the men didn't do what she wanted him to do for the event or the birthday or Christmas or whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
So men are really literal. If you want something, again, I generalize, but if you want something from him for a special event, let's say you love pink roses from Nancy's floral shop on your birthday, and you want 2 dozen of them with baby breath and green spray or something, whatever it is that you is like your thing that you just love. Tell him, remind him he may need to order them ahead of time, and then remind him again. And it's okay. It really is okay for you to ask for what you need. Same with like if there's a special restaurant you want to go to. Tell him exactly what restaurant that is. Ask him to maybe put a reminder in his phone to make a reservation 2 weeks out so that you can be at that restaurant on your special day. If you're very literal with your man, you're more likely to get what you want. I give you an example. So Monday nights, Tuesday is trash day at our house. Okay, trash day, and I'm usually the one who remembers. Oh, Monday we need to take out the trash. Now, if I'm with my husband, I'm like, oh babe, hey, it's Monday night. He not gonna pick it up. That I'm saying we need to take out the trash. But if I say, hey babe, trash is tomorrow. Can you help me with the trash tonight? He'll go, sure. It'll be that easy. It's just, but don't beat around the bush. Just ask him for what you need. If my husband too, I travel. My job at United, or my job at that major airline, I still keep it because I need my insurance. It's insurance is important. I'm only 58, so I don't have Medicare yet, and I'm not making enough money doing this to pay for all the stuff. So I still have my job there to keep my insurance and some travel benefits and stuff. So if my suitcase is upstairs, or either coming from my car to the house when I get home, or vice versa, I'll bring him in, maybe leave him in the living room, and if I just leave them there, he'll walk past them 5 times. But if I say, hey, sweetie, can you grab my suitcase, bring it upstairs? He'll go, okay. And he'll grab it and he'll go upstairs. So don't try to hint. My point is, don't try to make hints, beat around the bush. Don't hint and hope he'll pick it up, because he probably won't. Now, that's my husband, and some men might figure that out. But it's best to be very direct. Hey, sweetie, can you grab that suitcase and put it in the car? Sure, babe, I'll get that for you. And if it's a big thing, like you need help all day Saturday painting the bedroom, give him a couple weeks notice on that one. Don't assume that his weekends are yours. Talk about it, ask for his help. Say, hey, I'd love to get to painting that bedroom. Can we work on that sometime in the next month? Can we work on that in 2 weekends from now? Is that okay for you? He'll likely say yes. But if you say to him Friday night, hey, I'm planning on painting that bedroom tomorrow, let's do that together, he'll go, It might give you some trouble about, like, don't be taking my weekends from me, especially if he works 9 to 5 on Monday to Friday.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about expectations. I know in my own life, expectations can really be a hitching point in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
In life, just I might have unspoken expectations. I might not even be aware of all of my expectations. We come into marriage with an idea of what marriage is, but we forget that the other person comes into marriage with an idea of what marriage is. And we don't talk about it. We just go through this marriage, maybe bumping up against each other or avoiding each other. And I think that our expectations of marriage is in there. Maybe our expectations of where we should be, in quotes, should be at this midlife season of our lives, right? We have expectations about what life should look like, what relationships should look like, what our finances should look like. And I think while those are all fine and well, I think the expectations can become the contention points because maybe we're not aware or maybe we're not communicating what it is we expect. And maybe we could use a little bit of give and take with our expectations.
Truly. I would say I found that in my own marriage for sure, especially because this is our second marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And we had younger kids. We had kids that were all like from elementary school, actually kindergarten, all the way up into like just starting middle school when we met. And he had come from a family that had a lot of money, a pretty good income, because his in-laws were wealthy, and so they always had extra. So it's funny because you have different expectations for lots of things. It can be as simple as going to the drive-through. We took out the kids. I mean, the first time we all took all 5 kids to like McDonald's or something, and my first husband and I, one of the things that we had trouble was finances. And if I were to give you one quick aside on that, if you're having trouble with your finances, I love the stuff from Dave Ramsey. Yeah, Dave Ramsey, and it's amazing. His financial solutions are great. That and be generous. Be generous beyond what you think you ought to be, because you'll find that when you give, it comes back. It's a kind of the golden rule type thing. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Same within your relationships, doing unto others. But back to the story about going to McDonald's. So we went to McDonald's the first time, and my kids, we come from 3 kids. Whenever we went out to eat, it was dollar menu and water to drink. If we're going to go to McDonald's, that's all you get. And I cooked a lot at home. Now his family was full meal deal, super size, all that. So we go through the drive-through. My kids order off the dollar menu and water to drink, and his family is ordering like full meal deals. I'm like, whoa! Now, is one right and the other is wrong? No, they're just different habits, and those habits can be expectations. Like my expectation of my children is to order off the dollar menu. His expectation, they have no expectation there. But at first I was like, it's a waste. I can't believe you spent all that money. And that was before the minimum wage went up. So it was, so having, and expectations also of lots of things in your life. And it's not just say with your husband, like his mother stayed at home, and so he had certain expectations of things that I would do, and he just like assumed that I would do the dishes after we ate. I'm like, I had to communicate that I need help with that. If I cook, you clean, and that's what's going to go. So communicating that, I mean, not in a way like the way I just said it, but saying, I feel really loved when you help me do the dishes at night, because I have a long day as well, just like you do, and I really, it's important to me that we work together, not only in the cooking but in the cleanup. And we don't always cook together, but it sure is nice when we do. But back to other expectations, if you're a child of divorce, if you saw divorce in your family, if you have been divorced before, you may have something rolling around in your head that, I'll probably just get divorced again. And you need to change that. You need to change that with your mindset. Changing that with saying, like yesterday, down at the beach, or down, the waterfront, I said to my husband, I really want to stay with you forever. Now, I'm a child of divorce. I've been divorced before, but I'm changing my mindset on this one. I know that he's going to get older. He's going to probably gain weight. He's going to be less strong. The gun show might go away. Those kind of things. But I need to recognize it, see myself old and still in love with my husband, and setting your future expectations to match your what you're doing today, being mindful and having a mindset of growing old together is huge, as well as communicating today with what you want to do. But you have to have that mindset first that we're going to grow old and gray together, that we really are till death do us part.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, I was recently thinking about marriage, and I thought, you know, for me, marriage is a commitment that I made before God. So
Amen.
above my husband is this commitment that I've made. In other words, it's not contingent on him meeting all of my needs, although that would be absolutely lovely. I'm not going to lie. I'm not saying I'm just not attached to that idea, but I was really thinking about when you're going the long haul with somebody, for us, because this is our only marriage and we've been married 32 years.
That's amazing.
You reach a point, thank you. You reach a point where it's easy to just be roommates, and it's easy to just, like an old pair of shoes that's just comfortable and fits. Nothing's necessarily wrong, but nothing's necessarily exciting or interesting either. And so there's this idea that maybe we fall in love with the idea of always feeling in love and having this experience of, you know, a book or a movie. But I think the reality is, as love matures and we're growing and changing, I'm not the same person I was when I married my husband, and neither is he the same person. But we have evolved. But that doesn't mean, because I've heard people say we grew apart. Well, I am not like any of my friends, but I hardly ever say we grew apart. I think our expectation of marriage and our ideas of marriage are sometimes unattainable because we're two human beings taking this journey of life together. And we have to keep pushing life aside and making room for ourselves because of the commitment we made.
That's right. That commitment, it needs to be in front of you. It's so easy we see so many people just quitting. It's so common. And if I were to speak to any younger women in the audience who might be listening today, you have grown up in a society that people just throw things away. There's no value. There's no long-term value in long-term relationships. But when as women who have been around the block a few times, like I went to my 40-year high school reunion just recently, and I gotta tell you, the people that I knew from elementary school were the people that I had the most connection with. So that long, enduring relationship, you have a connection, even though you may not be feeling so close anymore. The connection is there. You just need to revive it. It's like going to that high school reunion and saying, hey, what's going on with you? Oh my goodness. Do you remember? Sometimes it's good to take a walk down memory lane together and help remember those things that brought you together. Do the things you did when you first dated. Go to some of those places if you can. Reenact some of those early dates. If you've been married a really long time, reenact those things. Get a chance to hang out with friends that you maybe knew way back when, so that you can kind of remember and rekindle some of that early energy that you had.
Yeah. One of the things we like to do, because, when we were young married, we did a lot of let's go take a drive because we don't have money to do anything else, So that's actually become kind of a cultural thing in our family, right? One of the things in our family is, let's go take a drive. And so this year we've taken 2 separate, 3 to 4 day driving trips. And that is just getting in the car. We have a plan where we're staying, but we're just kind of let's just drive. And we've passed this ice cream shop here in the eastern Sierra Nevadas. And I was like, I was driving. I'm like, we're getting ice cream. And my husband was like, well, okay, I guess we're getting ice cream. But then we, because ice cream is, my grandpa instilled a love of ice cream in me. That was our kind of time. So for me, ice cream is like a precious, like I'm sharing with you this thing that's precious to me. And so that's also become part of our culture. But then we can talk about, oh, remember that little ice cream spot in the middle of a nowhere town in the middle of the Eastern Sierras? And remember those strange flavors they had? And I think sometimes just going off of the script is really helpful because we are so we're so in a script, aren't we?
Right. Right. That's what I was saying. Like do a staycation. Go to a nice hotel that's nearby. With like Jeremy and I, we didn't realize that we both really liked this until we were on a cruise. We were on a cruise and they had some sale the second day of their spa package, and we thought, let's do this. The cruise had a ton of little kids, and so we thought, well, maybe we can kind of get away from the kids. Go in this spa. And we love it. We both love it. You know, when there's a steam room and the whirlpool and the sauna and the quiet room where it's a beautiful view of the ocean and whatever that is, there's a lot of nicer hotels that have spas like that have the whirlpool and the steam room, and some of them even have the whole thing where you've got the hot tub, the cold bath, the steam room. Those things are just so amazing. And one thing you need to find is some that is co-ed. Some of them, all that stuff is only in the women's restroom or only in the men's restroom. And if you're not gay, well, you can't do it together. So you're going to have to look for the ones that have, you know, a co-ed, steam room, sauna, whirlpool, all that. But it's an amazing thing, and it might cost you a couple $100s to stay the night. But how wonderful is that as a staycation? Just do something different. Or like you said, do something that you have done in the past. Go for that 3-day vacation to say, hey, let's get out. Can you take Monday off? Okay, let's get out. Let's do this together. Let's do this thing that's a little different. You don't have to have the major Iceland vacation. You just a few days together can really reconnect you and really help you just get away from the phones and the computers and the work that we can so often get lost in.
I find that getting away from home, like changing my environment, is hugely important for me as a person. And sometimes, like my husband might not necessarily see that as a need in his life, but when we do it, like get him out, we take this 3-day drive or whatever, he got really into it and he planned to drive for us. One of them was one that he thought I would enjoy, and he enjoyed planning that out and deciding what we were going to do. And it was so nice to have him plan this thing that was very simple. We didn't even leave California. It was all, within 5 hours of home. We spread it out over the weekend. And so I think maybe we could include our husbands in the planning and see what they come up with and kind of lean into their ideas and get excited about that. Because I think they're doers too, right? They want to contribute. They just don't always think of it.
Yes, I would 100% agree, because then that gets them on board.
Yeah.
I find that if I do, like sometimes we'll take a vacation. Now, because I have flight benefits, we can go farther places away. But because I'm also the person that usually plans all the travel, he sometimes just leaves it all to me. And then I get a little bit of root going because I just done all this work and all he had to do was pack his bag and grab his mask. And I think that just like a lot of things, like with my husband, he might grumble a minute about, he don't want to play. I want to do that. But when he gets involved, I think it does make a big difference. And then the two of you can get excited about it together.
Yeah.
It's almost like planning, remember planning your honeymoon, right? Planning a trip together when you really are thinking about what do we want to do. Jeremy's a funny guy too. He's very funny when he's around other people. He's got a big personality around other people. But when he's at home, he almost is like hermit type. He just likes to stay home. I don't want to go anywhere. But anytime I get him out the door to do things like you were saying, he just comes alive. He's like, oh, this is great. I'm so glad we did this.
Yes.
So getting out and doing something different, or doing something outside the house, you're right, we get out of the routine. We get
Mm-hmm.
out from in front of the computer, the TV, or the things that, the workshop or whatever it is that we just tend to, you know, find ourselves in on a regular basis all the time.
I think
Good to switch it up.
routine, yeah, routine has a purpose, but routine can
Mm-hmm.
really be the enemy sometimes. Because back to my
Yeah.
analogy of a comfortable shoe, I think because everybody's needs are different, not all men have high physical needs. Not all women
Yes.
have low physical needs, you know?
True.
So between emotional needs, physical needs, spiritual needs, and stimulation mental needs, I think that long-term marriage only becomes stagnant because we've forgotten to stay curious about
Mm-hmm.
the life that we're living and the person that we're living that life with. Because the more I know somebody, the easier it is for me to put them in a box. Like, this is how they would do things.
Mm-hmm.
This is what their response is. And I've really been trying to remind myself, both with, you know, my mom, my kids, they're adults, but my adult children, my husband, it's like, do I really know everything about them? Everything they think, every motive of their heart? Of course I don't. Half the time, I'm not even
Right.
sure of myself and the motives of my own heart. Like, if I can't even get a handle on myself, what makes me think that I know so much about other people and what they're thinking and what they're feeling? One of the things that I've started to do is, one, remind myself I don't know everything. And
Mm-hmm.
two, maybe asking more questions instead of
Right.
being the teller. Do you know what I mean? Like, just for my
Right.
personality, asking the questions. I was wondering, it kind of seemed like this is what was happening. Was I right? Like, was I on point? Did I misunderstand? And and for my marriage, and if anybody listening is married to someone who's not a talker, sometimes there's a patience to that process because
Mm-hmm.
my husband wasn't raised to think about what he was thinking and feeling. That wasn't part of the conversation. Now, neither
Right.
was I, but my personality lends itself to thinking way too
Mm-hmm.
much. So it,
Yeah.
but here's the thing, that's a gift to our marriage because when my father-in-law died suddenly, my mother-in-law became kind of our primary responsibility, my husband and I.
Oh, yeah.
We walked this incredibly intense journey together. It's too much to talk about here, but the point is, I tried to understand his responses by asking questions. And that's sometimes when life presents difficult situations to marriages, right? To one person in the marriage or to both, it can create trauma responses. It can create
Mm-hmm.
emotional kind of earthquakes, right? They can shut down, they can become more grouchy. And I think that there's all these different things about marriage. And the longer we are married, I think almost the more curious we need to be and allow the other person time to figure it out and communicate it back. Because that's what I was getting to is I started trying to ask really specific questions to see if I could help lift those things to the surface so he could work through them, because it was really very impactful on our marriage the way his trauma response hit. And I think if we're not in it to win it, and we're not thinking about growing old together, and we always have one foot out the door, these things can
Mm-hmm.
really be the death of a marriage just because we're already
Right.
halfway gone, right?
Right. And the problem too is that many women in our shoes are dealing with aging parents.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a whole nother thing. It's a one thing to take care of your children and let them launch and get into adulting and all of that. But then you're dealing with your parents, which is a whole nother thing. And then if you have siblings and you're kind of trying to share the responsibility, share the decisions about your aging parents or parent, those can be very big stressors. They
Yes.
can be really big stressors. And how can we be supportive to our spouse if they're going through that?
Mm.
How can we, and I will say that a lot of times those responsibilities fall on the female,
Woman.
the sister siblings. And so how can we have our husbands have a healthy response to that? How can they get involved? How, sometimes I'll just tell when Jeremy will sometimes grumble about not hearing from his kids. Okay, it seems like a silly thing, but Ashley hasn't called me, or he'll grumble about like the kids haven't connected with him. I'm like, no news is good news. But maybe we need to encourage him. Hey, let's just pick up the phone. Let's do a video chat with your mom today. I know we're not in the same city and you can't see her, but let's connect with her. And maybe we can encourage our man in a way to take a little more initiative and find out if he doesn't want to take the initiative. Like you said, ask those questions. What's keeping you from wanting to do that? We know your mom's not doing well. Like, I personally have a sister who doesn't do well with people who are dying. She just takes a big step back and just doesn't want to be involved. She does not want to go to the hospital when somebody's dying. She just honestly, that's just not her space. And I need to give her grace and understand that that's just where she's at. And that could be where your husband is. That maybe it's just there's guilt feelings of not being involved, or not being that son who made the phone calls all the time, or maybe it's just a frustration with maybe a sibling who's being too demanding. And how can you work with that sibling? There's lots of ways, but you're right. Being curious, asking those questions, those are excellent advice, because it's the aging parent is a very big stressor. And that's another thing. When that person dies, then again, you have this huge gap, especially for the women out there. You have this huge gap in your life. Like, wow, it's like almost like your kids left again. You became empty nesters all over again.
Yeah.
And so finding yourself, if you're in those shoes, finding the opportunity, or finding out who you are without that parent, or who you are without those kids, and reinventing yourself. That's kind of like almost what I did with this book. My kids had all grown. The pandemic came around. I was barely working. My husband and I were both at home. And that's a whole other thing, like the dynamic of when you both are home, when you've traveled so much and not been around. That's a whole other dynamic, which thankfully worked out okay for us, because we're in a pretty healthy relationship. But I wrote this book because I thought, well, my kids are gone. What do I want to teach them? How do I want to minister to them? Because as Christians, we're supposed to be bringing, making disciples. And so how can my children have children of divorce, all 5 of them, my children and my stepchildren. So how can I invest in my kids and make a difference in their lives? I don't want to get involved in all the things that they're doing. I don't want to enable anybody, but I wanted to give them some tools. So that's actually why I wrote this. I'm finding that a lot of women of our age are finding really great value in it. But I really originally wrote it for my kids, because they're all in their 20s. Nobody's married. 3, well, maybe 3.5 are in long-term relationships. The other one is kind of an interesting long-term relationship, but it's I wanted to make disciples. I wanted to make sure my kids were on the road, because that is not just influencing my children and their potential marriages, but my grandchildren, and maybe even my great-grandchildren. That if I can give these tips and this wisdom. So maybe if you're listening and you don't need help in your marriage, maybe your kids do. Maybe this is something that you can, share with them. I'm on a mission to make a difference in 1 million marriages. Now, is this my mission? No, I really feel like God is like kind of giving me this crazy drive to go do this. And if you have never, if you're still listening, I would love it if you could help share what I'm doing. Thank you, Gina, for letting me be on here to be able to talk about that. My book is on Amazon, Less Conflict, More Joy on Amazon. You could go to joyfullymarried.com and I have an online course there. I do marriage coaching, lovefixes.com. You can get it, or you could just connect with me on social. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I do Marriage Focus Fridays. Every Friday I tackle another topic and we talk about things that, I try to dive deep. Like when I was in Iceland, I did marriage is fire and ice. I'm in the land of fire and ice. So I talked about fire and ice and marriage, and how we need to manage the ice Make sure we keep the fire.
So now, if we could kind of anchor in, I would love to have you give 3 of your favorite tips off the
Well,
top of your head.
yeah,
Even if you're
absolutely. Number
repeating
one,
yourself.
those hugs. Those hugs. Hug your husband every day. Number 2, smile. Smile at the guy. When you are dating, when you connect with a girlfriend, we tend to smile, right? We get home and we just doing the do and just, empty empty the trash, doing the things at home, clean, do the cleaning. We just tend to just get lost in the mundane at home. But if you look at your husband and smile, he might ask, "What is up?" Well, I'll give you a little story about that. We had lived in a little tiny 850 square foot house, really small, and our evenings were not going well together. This is like in 2019, I would say, and it was not going very well. Our marriage was kind of rocky at that time, and this is through Brendan Bouchard. If you haven't heard of this guy, he's a personal development guy.
Favorite.
Amazing. Love him, right? And he talked about setting your intention before you walk through a doorway.
Mm-hmm. Yep. As soon as you pass, you do it.
That's right. You're thinking ahead of time before you walk through the doorway, what do I want to happen on the other side of the doorway? Well, my husband would come home and he always wanted the house kind of tidied and clean, but he would leave the house at 7 and be home by 3. And I am kind of a little bit slower getting rolling in the morning. I'm getting cranked up in the morning. I fly so many international trips that my body clock sometimes all wonked out. But he wouldn't like it to be messy in our house, and I always had a lot of projects going on, especially I had a jewelry business, a lot of inventory. I was bringing inventory in and out and pricing and all that. So I always had a bunch of stuff in the living room. And again, it's an 850 square foot house. It's like a small 1-bedroom apartment, although it was a 2-bedroom house. And every time I would come home and he'd see everything, he'd be grumbly, and I'd be like scrambling, trying to pick things up, and I'd barely look at the guy. And after I listened to Brendan Bouchard about smiling and setting that intention, I didn't care if it was a mess. When he walked through the door, I looked at him and I'm like, what's up? Big smile, big waves, how's your day? Truly just setting my intention for my evening. Even though he was the one walking through the door, because I was working at home, I would set my intention with him of wanting to have a great evening together. And it worked. He initially said, "What is," after the second or third day of me doing it, he was like, "What's with the smile?" So I told him about Brendan Bouchard and being intentional, and then he started coming to the door in the house. Was it was a window door. It's an old 1910 house, and it had this kind of funky window door. And so he would sit there, he'd come to the window, and he'd go. He would be smiling before he came into the door, and it made a huge difference. So number 1, hug him. Number 2, smile at the guy. And I would say that the third thing is when you need something, be specific. Ask. Don't be direct with him, not in a mean way. Not like, I need to do this. We need to do this. We're not doing that. But in a loving way, remembering the golden rule, love the person first, and then you'll get back. Do it. Anyway, so remember the golden rule. And when we ask, give him a little space. If you have a big project, ask him for help with smaller things. A lot of women do tend to be doers, and it's nice when we get help. So go ahead and ask the guy directly. But you can be sweet about it, not being demanding.
Awesome. Well, Theresa, I want to thank you so much for showing up today, and for you and I know what it took to get us here today. I'm super proud of us. It's been quite a challenge, but here we are, and you have shared so much light and hope for marriage, and your passion to help marriages succeed, not fail, that there is a way to do better, to be better, and to rekindle, reignite a marriage is just such an encouragement. And I'm 150% behind your mission of 1 million marriages, 150%. So thank you so much for showing up today.
I'm so glad to be here. Gina, it's such a blessing for me to be able to speak to the women in your audience. I think it's incredible. 6 seasons, and I get to be in the beginning of the sixth season. Woo! That's amazing. What a commitment you've made to your audience and the people that you're serving as well. I'm so impressed with the work that you're doing, and thank you for letting me be one little part of it.
But I can't do what I do without the people with the passion, because really what this is about is building a resource so that women have a place to go where they can find someone who can speak to their heart so that their lives can be positively impacted. And so this is one of those gaping holes where there's not a lot out there that's saying you can fix this. There's a lot more escape hatches than there are ways to stay in the foxhole until the gunfire ends. You know what I'm saying? So I'm super grateful for your showing up. And friends, if you find us here on YouTube, please look down below the links that Theresa shared. There they are. Subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss any more of this encouraging conversation. And if you are on a podcast platform, all you have to do is head to www.feminineroadmap.com/episode 300. And there you will find the links to Theresa. So if you're driving, don't worry. It's all there for you at that spot.
300!
Whoop, whoop. I feel like there should be gold balloons or something behind me, but there's not. Just pretend they're there. There you go. If you find yourself at this point in your marriage, friends, I would encourage you to rethink what you're thinking and pay attention to the thoughts going through your minds, the things that you're nurturing. Are you nurturing something negative, or are you nurturing something positive? Because it's easy for us to fall into these negative mindsets and these negative habits. And if you are in a normal marriage, my caveat is always, if you are in an abusive marriage, this conversation would be different. But if you are in a normal marriage where we're not dealing with abuse and you're just talking about the normal wear and tear on human relationships where you get tired and they get tired, remember there's two of you that are having emotional and mental and physical needs. And there is hope when two people are willing to do what it takes. And it's little things. It doesn't have to be dramatic. So remember, hug, smile, and be clear and sweet about your needs and expectations. Friends, there is hope. And if you need any extra help, please reach out to Theresa. Those links, like I said, are down below on YouTube or at www.feminineroadmap.com/episode 300. And don't forget to subscribe and share this. If you know anybody who needs to hear this, please don't hesitate to bring them to us so that we can impact their lives as well. And as always, we thank you so much for joining us this week. We look forward to sharing more inspirational conversations with you in the weeks to come. Take care, my friends. Bye-bye.
Bye.